it's now my privilege and my honor to introduce our next distinguished speaker. On January 5th, 2013, Governor Pat McCrory became the 74th governor of North Carolina. In his first State of the State address, the governor laid out his vision for returning North Carolina to prosperity with a commitment to focus on three areas: the economy, education, and efficiency. And true to his word, the governor wasted no time looking for forward-thinking solutions to challenges that many North Carolina leaders have not had the courage to tackle for years and even at times decades. He's led initiatives to upgrade information technology systems to make the state operations efficient and customer-friendly, and tasked educators with instilling knowledge and teaching skills to ensure students are both college and career-ready, a critical distinction, but one that we need to remember. But perhaps his boldest decision was to begin focusing the policy-making discussion in Raleigh around long overdue and sweeping reforms to our state's burdensome regulatory system, its broken unemployment insurance system, and its antiquated and convoluted tax code. Thanks to the governor's courageous decision on those issues, our state's economic competitiveness has skyrocketed, and job creators can expect to see unprecedented savings in the coming years, from streamlined regulations, lower personal and corporate income taxes, and drastically reduced federal unemployment taxes as a result of paying off the unemployment insurance debt. Those positive changes would not have been made possible without strong leadership at the top. When it comes to making the tough decisions to improve our economy, Governor McCrory truly has had the Midas touch. In fact, the North Carolina Chamber just read an ad in today's News and Observer, which we'll email to all attendees, thanking the governor for his hard work on these issues. We fully expect his bold vision and leadership will guide our state to solutions and other challenges that impact the lives of all North Carolinians. Governor McCrory's approach reflects a lifelong dedication to improving the lives of those he serves. We look forward to hearing more about his vision and direction for North Carolina. At this time, I'm going to find this wonderful piece from the NNO today, but also ask you to join me in welcoming the Honorable Pat McCrory, Governor of North Carolina.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We've had some fantastic news for the state of North Carolina during the past 2 years, and especially during the past week, as my introduction stated and as Lou mentioned and others. We're very pleased that we paid off a $2.5 billion debt that we owed the federal government, which in turn will return more money back to the business pockets so they can reinvest that money into capital, reinvest that money into their current employees, or reinvest that money into new employees, and to continue to grow North Carolina's economy and quality of life. That's very, very good news for North Carolina. And then the other news was we have a surplus. When all the critics said what we were doing was going to have disastrous consequences and result in a huge deficit, just the opposite occurred. And we now have a $400 million surplus and growing. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a governor who lives in the past or spikes the ball or celebrates too long with victories, because in this competitive world, we have to continue to move forward. And I want to continue to move forward. And in moving forward, I want to bring up a name of the past, which maybe will help give us the incentive to move forward by learning from our history. A mentor of mine and a person that I grew up watching as an employee of Duke Power was a guy named Bill Lee. He not only grew a great company in which he anticipated that we'd have major power needs, growing power needs for generations to come, and he anticipated those, and therefore we're benefiting from those decisions today throughout North Carolina. But he also didn't just focus on his job as CEO and chairman of that company, he also focused on what's best for North Carolina in general, its growing economy and quality of life. And so often you saw Bill Lee right here in Raleigh. Here he was running a company at the time of 17,000, 18,000 employees, and he had time to walk the halls of the state capitol, often visit with the governor, and try to influence legislation which would continue to have a positive impact on not his company, but on North Carolina. And I think now's the time to remember that focus of preparing this state for the next generation. In fact, in thinking of Bill Lee, his last day that he lived on this earth was right here in Raleigh, lobbying for a major economic development package so we could recruit, retain, and grow existing companies right here in North Carolina. This was back in, I believe, 1996. About my fourth month as governor, as mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina. He came here and walked the halls to ensure that we got legislation passed that made North Carolina economically competitive, not only with our neighboring states, but with the rest of the United States. And he helped pass one of the most dynamic legislative items that we've ever seen. It was then named Bill Lee Act in his memory, because that night he took a plane to New York City, wrote a handwritten 5 to 6 page note on the Charlotte Plaza notebook paper, letterhead, thanking the state legislature for their bold and assertive action. He then passed away. He was an example of people in the business community who understood that it was more than just the operation of his company that he needed to be worried about, but it was about the entire state and the entire region. And he did just that. And right now, as governor of the greatest state in the United States of America, I'm not going to rest on these incredible good news, despite what the critics say. We've got to keep moving forward. I had a wonderful lunch today with Tim Moore and Phil Berger at the Executive Mansion, talking about the next steps we need, and there was agreement that we need to take steps to pass an NC Competes bill to ensure that we are not only just competitive with South Carolina or Tennessee or Virginia, but competitive with all the other southeastern states that are led primarily by Republican governors that are as aggressive and bold as I'm attempting to be, and I am, who are competing against us as Carolina and Duke competes against each other in basketball. And I know them well. I know Nikki Haley and Bill Haslam and Rick Scott. They are tough competitors. And they're fighting for jobs just like we are in North Carolina. So we need your help. The legislature needs your help. I need your help to take bold action to ensure that we have a package available, so when myself and John Scavarla and you go out and recruit industry, because you're a part of this team, whether it be in the East, the Piedmont, or the West, that we have a clear and concise and consistent message that can be moved on with speed and within a strategic way to ensure that we have long-term jobs for the future. And the NC Compete bill, which was passed by the House of Representatives, does just that. And I expect and I anticipate action and debate on those in the next 2 weeks within the Senate. And I think that's very good news. We need your help on that. Because as we travel to Europe and as we travel to California and as we travel to Florida and other states, we need to be sure that we're sending a clear and concise message, and also a message in which not only do we have a package and a plan and a strategy, but we can make decisions quickly and concisely. Because in this competitive market, we have to do just that. And that's what this governor and my Secretary of Commerce can do. There's another thing that Bill Lee and I talked about 4 weeks before he passed away. He was retired, and I went up to his cubicle that he had on the 12th floor, in which he was taking pictures of a stadium being built across the street, which is now known as Bank of America Stadium. It was coming out of the ground, and he had the foresight to meet with Jerry Richardson and John Belk and others to say, we need to build a football stadium right here. We're going to get an NFL team. And at the time when he brought that up, everyone was laughing. Are you kidding me? North Carolina getting an NFL football team? This was the type of visionary leader he was doing, and he was taking pictures every day of the construction site going up. And I came to talk to him as the brand new mayor I was 39 years old, and I said, Mr. Lee, I called him Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee, I've been looking at our growth patterns of this city. I've been looking at the capacity of our highways, and we're not prepared for the next 10 to 20 years. There's no way that we can handle it. We need to have both a highway plan and a mass transit plan for Charlotte, North Carolina. And I've got this concept that I've put together with a team of people that we drew up on a napkin, in which we literally have a light rail line going along the major corridors where there is congestion and traffic, where we can give a choice to people, not only within the next 3 years, but for the next 2, 3, 4 generations. What do you think? And Mr. Lee said this, and he was no doubt, his health had an impact on his decision, his comment to me. He said the following. He said, Mr. Mayor, you can wait until the pain arrives and do it then, and it'll be an easy sell. Because once the pain arrives, everyone will change and demand action. Or you can anticipate the pain and change now, but when you try to change now, it's going to be one hell of a difficult sell. And I think that's the position we're in North Carolina right now. We can wait until the pain arrives and do it then, or we can anticipate what changes are going to occur and prepare and be ready and beat the competition. Because we're the 9th largest state in the United States of America right now, and as Lou said, it's going to increase. And we'll probably drop down to number 7 in the next 10 to 15 years and surpass states like Ohio, just like we passed Michigan in the past 2 months. We're the 9th largest, most populous state in the United States of America. We better wake up and realize that. And it's going to get even more populated, and we're going to continue that economic growth. And by the way, I'd rather deal with growing pains than dying pains. I felt that way as mayor, and I believe that as governor today. So while we celebrate this great news of much lower unemployment from 2 years ago, paying off debt, and now having a surplus in our budget, now is not the time to stop. I'm going back to Bill Lee's words and saying, now's the time to anticipate and not wait until the pain gets here and realize it's going to be a tough sale to make that happen. And that's why I'm proposing, and I stated in my State of the State speech, a $2.8 billion bond referendum, which will build roads for the future, not keep them lagging on the sideline. It'll connect North Carolina regions with each other. It'll connect North Carolina with economic regions along our borders. It'll connect small towns with economic regions that need to be connected, so the small towns will also grow and prosper like some of the metro areas are doing right now. It'll connect medical with people who need medical. It'll connect our universities. It'll connect our ports with much needed commerce. We need to borrow the money now at the lowest interest rates in our lifetime. It's almost free money at this point in time. In fact, I talked to a member of the Federal Reserve this weekend in New Bern, and he said, I'd get a 100-year loan. That's what he told me, because I said, a 100-year loan? I wouldn't dare do that. He says, do you think the money will get any cheaper during the next 100 years? It's very interesting logic. Now, I don't plan on getting a 100-year loan. But do you understand the logic? Now is the time to invest in infrastructure in the future and help speed up the construction of roads that have been sitting on the sideline for 10 years. The only thing that's going to happen as we wait is congestion will get worse, economic prosperity won't grow as much as it can, and the cost will go up, both with interest rates and with the cost of construction. This is the time for bold action. But it's not just highways that's important in North Carolina. We have other infrastructure that is extremely important. That is the second part of our proposal. We also must continue to invest in education, especially the sciences of math and engineering, where we have a skills gap at this point in time. And our proposal for universities encourages and emphasizes those schools that are building and creating and training new engineers and new scientists and new healthcare workers, which are needed in our state now more than ever. And that's why we have major investments at Western Carolina, Appalachian State, NC State, North Carolina A&T, UNC Charlotte, and many other schools on this list with an emphasis on engineering, sciences, math, and medicine, because those are the areas that employers, that your members are telling me where we need the people for the future. And if we don't get them, we'll go elsewhere. This is the investment we must make now in education. Another portion of that money will go into updating our community college system, hopefully in the areas, again, where we need mechanics, where we need electricians, where we need HVAC people, where we need welders. The capital-intensive equipment that they don't have right now to train the numbers that we're going to need in the future in all parts of our state. We're going to put the spending in a strategic way which meets the market demands of the future. The third area is the military, the Guard. It's a huge, I'm the commander of the Guard as governor of North Carolina. And this is very important. When you have a hurricane in North Carolina, you think of the Guard. When we need them in Iraq and Afghanistan, we now think of the Guard. We're going to need them in the future again. And their facilities need to be updated and maintained. And a major investment of this bond is also going into our military here in North Carolina. Another parts of this bond campaign that we're recommending is going into our park system, something that we don't talk enough about in the business community. But we have an incredible North Carolina park system, from the mountains to the coast. This is a park system that's accessible to all income levels, all people throughout the state. And in addition, it's a great travel and tourism activity for visitors to our state. Our parks have not been updated in 15 or 20 years. The infrastructure is dilapidated, it needs updating, and we need to expand it. Again, anticipating as opposed to reacting. Including the North Carolina Zoo, which has just been stagnant now for 20 years. We've got a major investment in Asheboro, which is close to Charlotte, which is close to Greensboro, which is close to Raleigh. It's the center of our state. There's an incredible opportunity for the zoo to protect our nature, to appeal to young people, and to be a travel and tourism destination for people from throughout the country and in North Carolina. I'm excited about the opportunity for our continued investment in infrastructure. And one of our major weaknesses right now when we compete against our neighboring states, especially for major automotive, is not only that we don't have the clear, concise package that that has not been passed at this point in time, but we're working on it. It's going to be done. But we also need help with our ports. This bond package would put major new updated facilities into our Wilmington and our Morehead City ports. Our Morehead City port right now, in which the water went down to about 26 to 27 feet, and we had major company like Nucor, which would have to not put as many steel on their boats coming in because the water wasn't deep enough. If we're going to be a serious commerce player, we've got to have some viable ports in Wilmington and Morehead City. And now's the time to make that investment for the next 10 or 20 years. The other thing is intermodal facilities. If we're going to, for example, get a major automotive company, we need a major railroad line and major intermodal facility, most likely in and around this part of the state right here, to help connect to the ports, including the ports in Virginia or Charleston. The more choices the consumer has, I have no problem with that whatsoever. This is all about connecting North Carolina with each other, with our neighboring states, and with the rest of the world. This is the type of leadership that Bill Lee talked about in his last day of living for North Carolina. I need your help. I need your help to talk to legislators and say it's time to take bold action at a time when we can afford it, at a time when there would be no tax increase, at a time when we have AAA bond ratings. I need the business community to step up like Bill Lee stepped up. I need the chambers to step up like Bill Lee would demand that they step up. Or we can wait. We can wait 6 months. We can wait a year. We can wait a decade. In the meantime, our competition will move ahead of us. It's your choice. It's our choice. Let the people make that decision. We have the most incredible resources in the United States of America and North Carolina. That's why I just got back from Houston, Texas, where I met with major gas and oil companies, talk about offshore drilling and inland gas exploration, because we need to create new revenue and new jobs and help the energy industry and help create jobs and help America's independence, and in the future even have North Carolina be an exporting state of energy to the rest of the world, which will bring revenue to our state and to our nation. This is the type of action that I need your help on. I seek your support. I seek you walk the legislature and go to your membership and say, now's the time for action. We can't wait. Even with the great news we've had during the past several weeks, you can't celebrate last year's accomplishments without continuing to look for the future. And that's exactly what I'm going to do, and I seek your assistance. And I just want to thank the NC Chamber. I want to thank all the local chambers for their continued support. But let's don't rest on our laurels. Let's keep moving ahead. Thank you, and God bless each one of you.